It's the same course that continues to divide and isolate America from the world by substituting bluster and bullying for direct diplomacy, by ignoring our allies and refusing to talk to our enemies, even though presidents from Kennedy to Reagan have done just that, because strong countries and strong leaders aren't afraid to tell hard truths to petty dictators.
Barack Obama continues to defend his policy of engaging our enemies, but after last night's win for Hillary Clinton, has Mrs. Clinton finally found his Achilles heel? Could it be the freshman senator is more vulnerable than we thought on the question of foreign policy? Joining us now is senior foreign policy advisor to the Obama campaign, Susan Rice. Susan, thanks a lot for coming on.
Good to be with you again.
So Hillary Clinton runs this ad, the famous red phone ad that says, when the phone rings at 3 in the morning, who do you trust to make those snap decisions that could hold all of our lives in the balance? And the Obama campaign, I thought very wisely, came back and said, name one that name a situation where you've judged a foreign policy crisis, and she couldn't. I was asked the same question to you. Where has Barack Obama been in a position where he's had to make those kind of decisions?
He hasn't. And he hasn't claimed that he's been in a position to have to answer the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning in a crisis situation. That's the difference between the two of them. Hillary Clinton hasn't had to answer the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning, and yet she attacked Barack Obama for not being ready. They're both not ready to have that 3 a.m. phone call. The question is, and what Barack Obama raised, is when that phone call is received for each of them for the first time, who's going to make the right judgment? Who is going to make the right decision on the critical foreign policy issues of the day, whether it was the decision to go to war in Iraq or the decision to give President Bush the benefit of the doubt and beat the drums of war with Iran? Hillary Clinton has made the same wrong judgment as John McCain and George W. Bush. Barack Obama has made a very different judgment. So neither one of them, and nor John McCain for that matter, have had that 3 a.m. phone call that others have had. And I think we have to be honest about that.
Well, good for you for saying that. I mean, I've asked that question of Hillary Clinton supporters, and they, rather than just saying she hasn't, they've come up with less believable, right?
But Tucker, let's go into what
pile on. But no, I know what they've said.
They've said, first of all, as you pointed out, they said, nothing for almost 30 seconds.
She went to the 1995 Beijing
and then she went to the Beijing Women's Conference, which of course was a crisis. And then she claimed that she played an instrumental role in negotiating the Northern Ireland peace agreement. George Mitchell, who was the negotiator, said she was not directly involved. She claimed she went to Kosovo and opened the border with Macedonia, and yet the border opened the day before she arrived on that trip through no direct involvement of her own.
They knew she was coming and they opened it up.
Well,
such is the power of Hillary Clinton, Susan.
Well, there you go.
So here's something that I think I may be one of 4 people who noticed this, but it really struck me. So Barack Obama has held in a steadfast way to this policy of meeting with our enemies. They may hate us, but we can't make it better until we talk to them. He said that in the face of a lot of criticism, meet with the heads of states of Iran, North Korea, Cuba, people who really hate us. Then he comes out and says, and I'm quoting now, he's not going to meet with Hamas, democratically elected Hamas. Quote, you can't negotiate with somebody who doesn't recognize the right of a country to exist. Is that the criterion now?
Well, let's be clear. What he said was that after due preparation and in order to advance our interests, he would be more than willing to consider meeting with the heads of state of countries with which we have adversarial relationships as a way of trying to see if through negotiations and other forms of pressure we can't get the desired result. Hamas is a different case. Hamas is a terrorist organization. Hamas is determined to affect Israel's destruction. Hamas is not a state. Hamas is not a head of state.
Okay, so they're a terrorist organization. But the government of Iran, which we think bankrolled the 1983 barracks bombings in Beirut, killing all those U.S. Marines.
They are a government that has been a state-sponsored
Absolutely.
terrorism.
Same with North Korea, peddling methamphetamine throughout
Same with
Europe.
the government of Sudan, with which this government has
There you go. But
closely.
we don't have a problem with them. But Hamas
is not a state. Hamas is not a state actor. There are real...
Not a state actor? I thought Hamas was kind of in controlling Gaza.
They're controlling Gaza. Gaza is not a state. They are a non-state actor that is controlling territory which they acquired through force. So here's the deal. Yes, we have to recognize reality. There are states on this planet with which we have adversarial relationships and with which we have real problems. The question is, do we isolate them and take the view that negotiating with them is somehow a reward? Or do we go back to a policy that has served this country well under Ronald Reagan and others?
I get it. I don't think he should meet with Hamas.
Hamas is different.
I think Hamas is repulsive. I don't think he should meet with them.
Indeed.
Good for him. But the only difference is it's a political one. He's under fire for his views on Israel that would be politically unacceptable to say say he's going to meet with them. Come on,
Tucker,
you know
no,
that's true,
he has been
Susan.
very clear on this point for the entirety.
Of course he has. He's not stupid.
And that is there is a distinction between meeting with any terrorist organization that is out to destroy our critical ally versus meeting with the government.
Destroy us? North Korea and Iran are out.
Well,
you could
George
argue
Bush
to destroy
has
us.
negotiated with North Korea, and he's opened diplomatic channels to Iran.
I'm not defending Bush. I'm just saying by that measure.
When you are a state, when you control territory, when you are, for like it or not, a member of the international community, that is a very different status from being a terrorist organization that is a non-state actor determined to destroy one of your critical allies. So what Barack Obama has said about Hamas is that Hamas should be isolated. It should not be part of the negotiations until it renounces terrorism, recognizes Israel, and accepts to be bound by all the agreements that the PLO had previously made.
Should we have, I want to ask you about NAFTA, but I'm so interested in this I can't control myself. Should we, Barack Obama, like George W. Bush and the neocons, is always out there extolling the virtues of democracy and dealing with the people and empowering them, etc. Should we have backed an election, as we did, in which Hamas had the opportunity to become democratically elected?
Well, I think that was a very questionable decision on the part of the administration.
But if you're committed to the idea of democracy as the highest good, how can you not?
It was a mistake. Look what happened.
So you recognize, and Mr. Obama recognizes, that democracy is not the end.
No, democracy is the beginning. Democracy is what you need to have a capable state that is willing to behave responsibly in the international community.
But democracy empowered Hamas.
And that's why the policy of the Bush administration was a mistake.
So maybe democracy is not always good.
Democracy needs to be built from the bottom up. It's not just about an election. It's about democratic institutions, about civil society, free press. And that it was woefully absent in the case of the Palestinian elections. We got Hamas, and we now have the consequences.
Very quickly, your campaign has said nobody, and you've said nobody from the Obama campaign met with the Canadian government to talk NAFTA. That has turned out to be untrue. What happened?
I gave you the best answer I had at the time.
Well, I believe you.
I'm sorry that it turned out to be incomplete. Here's what happened. There was a press report that you cited last week when we spoke,
right,
that the two people from the Obama campaign initiated and had a meeting with the Canadian ambassador to tell the Canadian ambassador that don't believe what Barack Obama is saying on the campaign trail. He's really not serious about NAFTA. That never happened. There was no such meeting. It was never initiated by the Obama campaign, and that message was never delivered. What we learned subsequently is that there was a low-level meeting in Chicago initiated by the Canadian consulate with Austin Goolsbee, who is an economic advisor to Barack Obama. They had a discussion. No point in that discussion did Austin Goolsbee say anything different from what Barack Obama has said in public.
Okay.
He said we have to open NAFTA to ensure that environmental and labor standards are in the core agreement. The summary of that message, written by somebody else, was leaked by the Canadian government, and it distorted what the actual body of the message said. And the Canadian government has apologized. They have said that characterization was inaccurate. And today, the Prime Minister of Canada has called for an investigation into the whole incident.
And when Canadians investigate, step back. Watch out. You don't mess around. Susan Rice, thank you very much.
Thank you.